You got me, Jay? All right. It's truly been a good place to be, ain't it? I'll not hold you long. Uh, but I do have a few things here I want to go over. This has truly been an awesome place to be. His presence been here. It's been like a up and down thing all through service, you know. And there's a few minutes there I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to preach or not, because you feel the anointing kind of ease away, and then you feel it draw back, you know. So what I want to talk to you about is why doesn't God do something about that? Have you got that one thing to where it causes you problems all the time? Have you got that one thing that you label as a that or an it? Some of you, it's sitting right beside of you, ain't it? It might be home waiting on you to get home, ain't it? It might be off to college right now. It could be a boss at work. It could be another fellow employee across the hallway. Or it could be somebody that you know somewhere, but you got them labeled as that. Or your situation, you labeled it. Lord, I would be all right if it wasn't for that one thing. Lord, if this one thing was out of my way, my day would go a lot smoother. Have you ever been there? Have you went through these things? I do. It seems like every situation that He gets me in, John, that I may go to work somewhere and there's that one person you're like, oh man, they're here. Or you go out to eat somewhere, you know, and there's that one you're like, oh man. We all have that, don't we, in our lives? We're going to be in John chapter 11. I know I didn't give you no verses, but we're going to go right down the line right here. That one thing, one problem in our lives. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Now they lived just about 1.5 miles maybe from Jerusalem, not very far from town. In verse 3 it says, so the sister sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. Think about that label on him right there. The one, Father, that you love, he is sick. How close was he to Jesus? To where he's labeled as love. The one that you love. Don't call him by name. They don't call him by Lazarus. Whenever Christ gets the word, they say, the one that you love, he is sick. And Christ knows who he is. When they speak of this person, that they label him as love. When he had heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory. So think about this for a minute. He's done labeled it. He's done changed it up where he says it, the sickness. No sickness. No, it is the glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. We think sometimes, because we get in these valleys sometimes, that we wonder, why am I going through this? Why am I stuck in this situation? Why is that sickness upon me? Why do I have to deal with that every day in my life? Why do I have to deal with that pain, Charlie, every day in my life? It might be for His glory. The situation that you're going through is going to be for His glory. What we're going to get to here in a minute. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Now the disciples was probably, when they got the word, they started gathering all their stuff up probably and saying, come on, Andy, he's going to go. I know he's going to. The one that he loved is sick, Mama. Come on, we're getting ready to go. Get your gear. We're getting ready to go. Christ says, no. We're not going nowhere. Can you imagine what they felt like probably? After watching everything that he's done and everything that he does for everybody else, and Christ says, no, boys, we're not going nowhere right yet. And they're just kind of like hesitant and laying stuff back down, Todd, and seeing what he's going to do. Curious, sitting back. For 2 more days he tarried there. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. And immediately they say, but Rabbi, they said a short while ago the Jews there try to stone you. And yet you're going back. Is this exactly how we are sometimes whenever Christ is going to fix our problem? Isn't this the way we are sometimes whenever He says, okay, I'm going to take care of it, and all of a sudden we're like, no, Lord, we're not going to go back to that very spot where I was. Just a few, 2 days earlier, Kathy, they was ready to get their gear up and ready to go with Him, wasn't He? And now when Christ says, okay, we're going back through Judea, a place where they don't want to go, sometimes the problems that we have in our lives, Philip, we're going to have to go back to where we don't want to see. Sometimes we're going to have to get back to the root of things for things to get solved. Every now and then things get revealed that we don't want to see get revealed. But there's a reason for it. But these men didn't want to go now. They changed their tune. But Rabbi, they said a short while ago the Jews there try to stone you, and yet you are going back. Jesus answered and said, are there not 12 hours of daylight? They're like, 12 hours of daylight? Where's he going with this? What are you talking about? Well, he goes on and tells them a little bit longer. Those who walk in daytime will not stumble, for they see but this world's light. It is when people walk at night that they stumble, for they have no light. He's trying to tell him right here, Charlie, that I'm just going to be here for a little while. In other words, it is opportunity. These 12 hours in the day or whatever, this moment that you have with me, it is opportunity that I'm going to supply for you. Because I'm just going to be here for a little while he's telling me, Andy, pretty soon I've got to go back. And the light is going to be gone. He's going to demonstrate something powerful here in a minute, ain't he? Now, I know this is slow. After he has said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up. And then the disciples replied, Lord, if he's asleep, he will get better. In other words, the fever will break. He's going to be all right. There's no use for us to go, in other words. Because they're not wanting to go back. They're trying to play doctor right now with him. They're trying to tell the most awesome physician on what to do. He'll be fine, Father. He'll be fine. He's asleep right now. Ain't that how we try to solve our problems sometimes? Oh, he'll be okay. It might be tough right now, but if we don't deal with it right now, it's going to be all right. Sometimes problems in our life is like a leak, like a water leak in a house. If you don't address it, it'll create more damage in your house, day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. I lost my spot. His disciples said, if he is asleep, he will get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but the disciples thought that he meant natural sleep. And then he just pretty well plainly tells them that Lazarus is dead, and for your sake, I'm glad that I wasn't there. Because I'm about to show you something That's going to be more powerful here in a minute. I'm trying to rush. That's why I'm going to have to quit getting off my page here. I am glad that it was not there so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, aren't these guys always here? Aren't they always one that's negative? This is usually me right here. I'm usually Thomas when something's broke at the house. Well, you're going to have to replace the whole thing. Or when you're stuck along the road, well, we're stuck, we ain't got nowhere to go. That's usually me in them situations. He said to the rest of the disciples, let us go also, we may die with him. In other words, he's saying, you know what? Lazarus is already dead. They're going to stone Christ when he gets there, and then they're going to turn around and stone us. So let's just go ahead and go. Let's just go ahead and go with him. Let's just go ahead and go through Judea. It's going to be a bad situation. Ain't that way it is sometimes when we're dealing with a child that won't listen to us? Well, we can't do nothing with him. Just send him to his room. Ain't that the situation at work sometimes? Well, that old boss is never going to change. There's nothing that I can do. I'm going to have to quit my job. Ain't that the way we are all the time? That we're always wanting to push it somewhere else and not drive forward to press on to the mark of the prize of the high calling? This life is pressing. And I know we all got to put up with sickness. And I know we all got to put up financial trouble. And I know we all got to put up with this everyday life because I deal with it too every day. But we have, wherever he goes, we've got to be willing to follow him, Tim. Wherever he says for us to go, we got to be willing to go through Judea. No matter if we get hit by a stone. No matter if we got to dodge. No matter if we got to put a bucket up on our head to protect ourselves. If he says go, we better go. If he says do, we better be a doer. If he tells you to stand up, you better stand up. If he tells you to lay in the floor, you better lay in the floor. Because it's like a chain reaction sometimes. And I'll share a little story what happened to me yesterday. My last 3 weeks has been chaotic, busy. There's not enough minutes in the day, and the sun is setting too fast on me, seems like. And yesterday I got up. My wife has been so busy. I've been so busy. It's almost like we got to pick a time and a date to get together and see each other. Because she's going somewhere and I'm going somewhere and we're so busy and everything. And here I am trying to cut my grass, Nathan, out there real fast because we was wanting to go out and spend a little time and eat dinner. And there's this woman, my neighbor, and she lives by herself. And she's on a cane mama. And she's out there going to her mailbox. And I'm sitting there running like a maniac on a tractor, running 80 miles an hour across the grass. And it looks ugly because I'm mowing so fast trying to get it done. And then I jump and go grab a weed eater and I'm whacking weeds and trying to hurry up and get done so I can go do something fun for once in 3 weeks. And all of a sudden the Lord says, Aaron, go pray for her. I'm like, oh, Lord. Lord, you don't know what kind of day I'm having. He says, yes, I do, son. Because I'm with you right now. I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly where you've been. You've been doing my work, son. I know where you've been. I know what you're doing. But I want you to go pray for her. Oh, Lord, can I do it tomorrow when I got a little time? No, Aaron, now. I was like, oh, man. You ever been there? And I knew if I didn't go, Kathy, then the rest of my day was going to be ruined because I was going to be whooped. I would have went out and ate, but I would have felt awful. I would have had to rush back home and go down and pray for her at 10 o'clock at night. He said, now, Aaron, I want you to go now. So I dropped that weed eater, Kathy, and I went running around. And here I've got these old coveralls on that's covered in grass where it was wet. I got these old glasses, this old hat to keep the weeds from getting all over me. And I come around her garage, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, she's already went in, Lord. I'll do it later. You ever been there? I have. And I come around, she's about halfway up her sidewalk, and I was like, oh, I got to do it. And I walk up, and she's real hard hearing anyways. I'm going, how you doing today, lady? Like that. She starts reaching for that phone. I think she thought her phone was ringing. And I come up to her on her side, trying not to scare her, because I know I was going to scare her, because, here I'm all, look like I've been through a hog lot somewhere. And I said, Billy, are you there? She said, oh, man, she jumped out of her skin. And then she started talking to me. And when you got a woman who's been probably lives by herself, she's got a lot to tell you. I heard about her daughter and her foster kids that she's got, and we went all through that, and we went all through her granddaughter being a majorette, and I had no idea where her daughter was and where she majorette, what school, whatever. But I was just sitting there listening, John. She was going 90 miles an hour. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've been here 15 minutes. I would have already been done. Then I told her, I said, Billy, why I'm here, I said, the Lord told me to come here and pray with you. And you should have just seen her face. And the anointing come down. And after I got done praying with her, she wanted to hug me, Kathy. I said, Billy, I'm all nasty. She just patted me on the arm. She was trying her best to get a hold of me. Then all my stuff that I've been going through, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. The day that I was having Brother Sid, it didn't matter. The rush that I was in, it didn't matter. It was almost like time stood still. And then he was still. He allowed me to get all my stuff done. Ain't it awesome whenever you're in God's will? And when you do, and am I bragging on myself? No, I don't want to sound that way. But what I'm trying to show you is to take time for one and another. How did I know that maybe she'd been praying, Troy, for days for a touch? You know what I'm saying? And she started telling me how she had a problem in her shoulder, and it started going down to her legs. And I said, well, Billy, I believe you're going to be all right. You're going to see results. Never think that you're too busy for Him. Never think that you're too busy to go through Judea back to the one that He loves. And on His arrival, Jesus found Lazarus. I know I might skip down, but I'm going to try to hurry up. I know it's getting late. Had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, can you imagine this scene right here? Can you imagine Mary and Martha as they comfort Lazarus there, and they was wiping his brow down, wiping him, trying their best to make him comfortable. We don't know what kind of sickness he was. He had no morphine. He had no Tylenol. He had nothing for relief of pain. There wasn't no ventilator to help him. There wasn't no pacemaker to put in. This man was sick, and he was laying there, Kathy. And can you imagine them telling him, don't worry, Bubby. We sent word to Jesus. We told him you're sick. He's coming. We know He's coming. Just hang on a little bit longer. Can you imagine what these women, what they felt when they sat there and watched their brother died, and them knowing Christ so close that they're identified as them girls and him as the loved ones for Him? And they sit there and watched their brother died. And they had the funeral. And he was already in the tomb for 4 days. Now, can you imagine what they felt? How would you feel? How would you feel? While we puff up sometimes just because the pastor or somebody from the church don't come see a loved one we got in the hospital. While we'll puff up, won't we? We'll get upset because brother so-and-so didn't come see me or come see my mom or dad. Now, here he is, Kurt. Here he is, the one that Christ loved. He did not come. He didn't even show up for the funeral. They wrapped him and everything. got him ready to put him in the tomb, Mama. No Christ. Jesus didn't come. How do you think they felt? And speaking of 4 days, here's something else to think about. You see, back then they believed that the body, Kathy, 3 days. That the spirit, they believed that the spirit would hover over the body for 3 days, Mama. Because naturally, the body will what? When it's lifeless, it's going to start changing after a couple of days. When it's in the elements, it's going to start changing its looks. Skin's going to start changing. Hair and everything else. And they believe, Kurt, that after 3 days, then there's no hope. That the spirit's gone. And when I run across that, then that made so much sense how it emphasizes 4 days. To them, he was 1 day late. They still had hope. Even though their brother had died, they still had hope for them 3 days that he could be brought back. But the 4th day passed. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed home. Why did she stay home? You ever thought about that? Martha ran to the edge of the village, knew that he was coming, but Mary stayed home. Mary's mad. Mary's upset. I'm not going out there to meet him. He could have, he should have, but he didn't. Who's this sound like sometimes? Huh? When you're praying for something and you don't get it from him right now? You could have. You should have. Gave me that job. You could have. You should have touched this body. You could have, or you should have touched my mom or dad, or my son or my daughter. Just like us sometimes. We pout at him. I do sometimes. I'm not afraid to admit it. My faults. I pout at him sometimes. But he tunes me right back up. Pretty quick. But she's upset. Martha said, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here. Why couldn't you been here within them 3 days? Why couldn't you even... You was only a day and a half away, and we sent you plenty of word and time to get here. And we like that sometimes, Brother Charlie. We're prayed up. We're studied up. Where are you at? That's the way we are sometimes. But she comes back. She says, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. (23 and 24) says, Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again, Martha. And she kind of takes it like comforting. Yeah, I know. He's going to rise in the resurrection. I know that, Lord. He's almost like, hold on here a minute. Is that way we are sometimes? Yeah, I know you said you'll do that for me. I know it's going to happen. Yeah, in due time. Yeah, be patient. Be patient. Wait upon the Lord. Don't we get aggravated like that sometimes at him? He's like, ho, wait on here a minute. He says, in other words, Ruth, he says, yes, there's going to be a resurrection. There's going to be a resurrection in the future. But he tells her, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. Ain't it like that whenever he finally comes in the hospital room and everything's chaotic and the one that you love and they're sitting there and they're trying to get them stable and everything? I've been in them rooms before, and all of a sudden it's like after everything kind of calms down, it's almost like somebody opened the door up and there's like a peace that comes in. And he says, I am the resurrection. I am the life. In other words, all things come through me for you. Anyone who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. And then he asked her a question. And I'm going to ask you a question. This very same question he asked her. Do you believe this? He asked her, he said, do you believe this? What I'm telling you, that I am the resurrection, I am the life, I am the door, I'm the one that everything comes through, I'm the one that hung the sun, I'm the one that tells the moon where to be, and I'm the one that's standing in front of you right now. And I'm asking you, do you still trust me, even though that I was not here when you wanted me? You wanted me on a certain day, and I wasn't here. But I'm here now, and I'm asking you, do you trust me, and do you believe this? It's just simple as that. Do you believe it? And she says, yes, Lord, she told him. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. And then she runs and she gets Mary, and Mary comes, and he tells her, they have a conversation and everything. And when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And he asked them, he said, where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. And something right here happens. And we think sometimes that God don't care about the little small things in life to get us by every now and then. Every now and then he'll just put, it's almost like he just gives you just a little something extra to let you know he's there. Now, think about it. If you was the fixer and you knew what was about to happen, he knows what's about to happen here. And this is why this is so awesome to me. He knows what's about ready to take place, Mama. He knows what he's going to do when they open up the tomb. He knows what he's going to do. But you know what? He wants to show them that he cares. And the Bible says that Jesus wept. He cares about you. Them times when you're alone in your truck and you're crying, Andy, he's right there. When you're in the hospital waiting room and nobody else has got there yet, and you're uncertain, don't know what to do, he is there. There have been many times, Lou, that I've went on the job site and go around a stack of pipe somewhere or around a wall and start bawling, Mama, with something I'm going through, and he is right there with me. He was wanting to let them know that he cares right here. He wept. He showed emotion to let them know how much that he did love him and he loves them. And then the Jews said, see how he loved them? But some of them said, and just like how some of us are, could not who opened the eyes of the blind kept this man from dying? Ain't that way we are sometimes? Why don't you do it? You should have been here. Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But I like this right here. 11:39 says, but Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, but by this time there's a bad odor, or he stinketh, for he's been here 4 days. You think that might have been a little bit of a cut right there? You think she might have meant something right there because she was hoping he'd been there within 3 days, how they kind of believed back then? But right here she's saying he's been in the tomb 4 days. Ain't that way we are sometimes with him? You should have been here last week. Or you should have done this for me. Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" If we will only believe in Him on anything we're going through, we will see God's glory. As she was talking about how in order to get to her, you got to go all around this protection that He has supplied for you. He put a hedge around Job. Satan was up there talking to God, and he said, "I cannot touch that boy." In other words, God's like, "I know you can't touch him because I've got a hedge about him. You've got a hedge about you." One place it talks about a sheepfold, how He puts you in the sheepfold. And He is where? At the door. He is what? The resurrection and everything in between. He says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega," and He's everything in between. I am the first and I am the last. I am the King of kings and Lord of lords. I am Jehovah. And any problem you got, He can take care of it. Anything you're struggling with, He can take care of it. You know what He done for me the other day, Kathy? I was sitting in my house, and it was almost like, you ever have them little revelations come down? And it's almost like He showed me five prayers, Tim, that He's answered for me in the last 5 months. And I was just sitting there and I said, "Lord, You're just awesome." And we're so caught up that we don't pay attention to it, do we? I had a real bad case of getting dizzy there for a while. And I was getting a little bit worried. I better go to the doctor over it. And I would be fine. And all of a sudden it was like I got real dizzy. And I had that boy right there prayed over me one day. And I've not had one dizzy spell since. That's Him. Through Him, by His faith, Zach's got more faith than I do sometimes. What's he tell us in the Bible? We must have a childlike faith. My toughest problems that I'm going through, Kathy, I have Zach pray for me. Because I truly believe his faith is better than mine sometimes. You say, "Well, you got to have a little bit more faith, preacher." I know, but there's one thing about it. When I know there's a hot spot, brother, I go to get in it. Don't you? I know when the pool is trouble. I know when to jump in, Kathy. And when it's working, we use it, don't we, Kurt? No matter who it is. That's why we got, boy, Brother Ray's another one, boys. When he prays for you and them eyes are wide open and he pokes you in the eye with his spiky hair, put your eyeball out. Man, I thought I about lost my right eye one day. I don't know what kind of hairspray that guy uses, but man, it is stiff. But Ray has got that same quality about him. And I know it's with certain, and it's funny when it's with certain people that we kind of trust and we put our trust in. But it's God using them for us. It's not, I don't look at Zach or Ray to where I'm thinking, it's not them, but it's the connection. What's there? The hot spot, like on a phone, it's the hot spot. And get plugged up. I'll try to hurry up. I know it's running late. Where is we at? Said Jesus. I knew that you was always here. Okay, all right, he's getting ready. All right, my bad. So He took away the stone, and Jesus looked up and said, and He's getting ready to pray right here, and he's wanting. Can you imagine what this prayer was? I mean, He's like, "Okay, God, Father, I'm going to look at You right now because I want to. Everything goes through You. Everything with me, it sends up to You, and and You're about to reflect in a mighty way in front of these people right here." He's saying a little prayer. In other words, it's kind of like a demonstration. And then He comes out and He says, so they took away. He says, "Father, I thank You. I thank You that You have heard me. I knew that You always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that You have sent me." And when He had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands, feet strapped up with linen and clothing around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." He had to tell them to go to him. Everybody's like this. Take his clothes off. Can you imagine now that somebody that has been dead for 4 days, Mama, I don't think he come out and he looked like he was just fell asleep. I'm sure when he come out, they said he stunk. Can you imagine when he first came out? I mean, he probably kind of looked like he was kind of coming to, and he's like, take the clothes off of him. And they're like, no. What would you done? Put yourself in this situation, Kathy. It probably wasn't a pretty picture here when he first came out of there. And gradually, Mama, as he started, and I believe then stuff started to transform on him because everything was coming back to health in his body. But I believe, for Anitra, for that first couple of seconds, that he wasn't very pretty because there wasn't nobody running to hug him. The Bible don't say it. Mary and Martha went and hugged her brother, does it? They was like, whoa, what went on here? It's not like when somebody had died before and he went to them and brought them back. This man had been gone for 4 days. Like we talked about earlier, how they believe after 3 days, then they believe that the spirit was truly gone after that. And here he walked out of the tomb. Therefore, many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did put their faith in Him. Of course they did. Would you? Of course you would. What grows in our faith? Whenever Christ does stuff for us, it grows a little bit stronger, don't it? Whenever something goes right in our ways, all of a sudden we get a little bit stronger. Whenever we pray for somebody and we see the evidence of it. How many times have we seen it right here? And of course, whenever they had all these people come up with these bulletin boards, when people fought cancer, people fought alcoholism, people fought depression, and I remember standing right there, I'm like, man, I can't. It's hard to believe that all of them come through here, but I can remember each person that went by, and I remember that moment. But when you see something like that, Andy, your faith starts building up steps then, don't it? And the Bible said that their faith grew strong in him that day. And of course it did, because why? Their brother that was dead is now alive. They was people here today, boys, their faith got stronger because they was once dead and now they are alive. The ones that got dipped out in the glory hole out here today, boys, they are stronger in faith tonight, ain't they? With their battle they're going through. So we still ask the question, why doesn't God do something about that? There's 3 things that we got to remember. Why doesn't God do that? I don't have the answer why it's not happened yet, but there's 3 things I do know. Number 1 is He can. Whatever that will happen, He can do it. Number 2, sometimes He waits. Sometimes He waits. It might be 2 days tarry and be 4 days late to them, but sometimes it's been a year for me or a year and a half for me. There have been times that I went through depression and I went through pains of this body that I've dealt with, and I couldn't figure out why, but when it was God's time, I was healed from it. And all the glory goes to Him. Number 3, we can trust Him in the meantime. When it don't go our way, whenever things don't happen when we want to, but we still have to trust Him in the meantime that His mighty hand is upon our lives and we're in His will and upon His road that He's provided us to be on, and it all will happen one day in our favor, however it's meant to be. Now there's some of us, we may go through this life with the same issues. But there's one thing about it, He can take it away. Sometimes He waits, and we can trust Him in the meantime. And the last thing I'm going to leave with you, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. We've got to believe. When I was getting this message together, Charlie, I thought of Gabe and how the road, he's not here tonight, but the road that Gabe's had for the last several years. I bet you there's many nights that Gabe would have rather been doing something else. I know there's many nights that he'd rather been with his son or with his wife or doing something. How many times did he lean on that? I know he can. I know he can do it in his time. But in the meantime, I'm still going to trust him. Is that you tonight? What are you struggling with? What's holding you back? What's keeping you? Number one, it's yourself. It's not him. Every time I've ever run into a problem and I thought that it was him, that he wasn't making a way, it didn't take him very long to back me up and set me right where I am and then show me scriptures and let me know that, no, Aaron, it's not me, it is you. The reason why you're still here in this one place. Believe in him and you will see the glory of God. Come on, Pastor.
Did you enjoy that? Do you believe we serve a God that is on time?